everyone. Welcome to our session. We are Voces Digital. My name is Kelsey. I handle a lot of customer support and helping teachers out with using our product. And we're very glad that you could come and hang out with us for a little bit today. So I'm going to start us off with an old tradition. Back in the 90s, Skip McWilliams, who's the founder of Teachers Discovery, used to ring that bell every time someone would book a stay at the Copper Canyon Lodges in Mexico. But it wasn't just the sale he was celebrating. Skip was always celebrating another person who got to experience authentic Mexican culture. Authentic culture has always been very important to Skip. That's why when he first developed the Voces textbooks back in the early 2000s, the focus was culture. That focus set Voces apart from everyone else in the industry at that point. We fast forward to 2010. We still have the Voces textbooks, but Skip wants more. He wants more culture, more images, and most importantly, more voices. He knows that paper textbooks are never going to be sufficient. So he walks into Chris's office, who's our lead developer, throws the textbooks on his desk and says, "Make these digital." A few months later, Voces Digital was born, even though it was only in Flash. So since 2010, we've evolved immensely. Not only did we move completely away from Flash, we now boast compatibility with all devices, integration with learning management systems such as Google Classroom and Schoology. We also have a large assortment of tools that are very important and necessary for language teachers. This includes custom assignments, customizable curriculum, automatic grading, and student recording ability. To our original Voces titles, we added hundreds of authentic materials, additional culture exploration, interactive can-do statements, and standards-based rubric grading. But maybe most importantly in our evolution, we opened our minds to a new way of teaching language altogether, comprehensible input, or CI. And the more we learned about CI, the more sense that it made, and the more clear it became that that was where Voces needed to go. But we didn't just take our original titles, add some stories, and slap a CI title on it. We became committed to learning everything we could about CI. We reached out to teachers who were using CI. We attended conferences and presentations and workshops to learn more about CI. We read materials, we talked to educators, administrators, anyone we could who knew anything about CI. Then and only then did we begin to build what today is Nuestra, Historia, levels 1 through 4, and Nuestra, levels 1 and 2. I think I said that right. I practiced that on the way here. And we do like to believe that we created something magical. And the more we hear from our teachers, the more we believe that. We created something that was shaped by Skip's insistence on authentic culture, that Chris brought to life on a digital platform, that Erin and her team of teachers and collaborators built from the ground up. Our contributors are teachers who are on the ground in classrooms across the country and who know what works and what doesn't work. And they give us a lot of feedback and a lot of input to make sure that we're giving you the very best product that we can. So now I'm going to invite you to watch two of these teachers, Allison and Brian, as they show you some of the ways that Voces can be used in your classroom.
So hi, I'm Allison Clancy. I am a teacher in Michigan, and I have made the switch to comprehensible input. I've been teaching for 20 plus years, and I would say for the first 15 or so, I was a traditional type of textbook, grammar-based vocabulary teacher, and one time I went to a conference for IFLT, and I came back with two very huge takeaways. One, that students must read to be able to acquire language, and two, that I should give myself more permission to just interact with my students. So in order for them to read, I need stories, and I am not a story writer. Brian is. So in order for me to present these stories to them, I would like to show you some of the personal question and answers that we have developed to introduce these stories, to make connections with the students, their lives, and the structures that are in the stories. And I just want to understand, we're going to show you a level 3 story, so you should assume that the students have already done levels 1 through 2, and that they have seen some of the basic, like, high frequency vocabulary words already over the first 2 years. So, and I wish I had a laser pointer over here so that I could show you the structures, but for this activity, the structures are las arpilleras, which are Chilean handcraft, sewn on burlap. It's a type of art that represents daily life. We have the verb apoyar, which means to support, luchar, which means to fight, and tela, which is the fabric that these arpilleras are sewn on. So, and we want you to know that these structures right here are exactly how they first appear in the story. And what I'm going to do with you, and with your help, if you could play along with me, I'm going to ask you guys some questions using these structures, and I'm not going to shelter the grammar at all. I'm going to ask a couple of different questions using these verbs in context. I want you to understand too that these questions that I'm going to ask of you, it's not for you to like assign for your students to go sit down and write the answers to all of these questions. They're meant for you to interact. So if you could please play along with me while I interact with you, okay? So, las arpilleras. ¿Has visto una arpillera? ¿Sí? No. ¿Quieres ver una arpillera? Sí, porque yo tengo una arpillera. ¿Quieren verla? Sí. ¿Sí? Ok. Aquí es una arpillera, pero esta arpillera como es muy similar a las arpilleras que Brian va a leer con ustedes con la historia. Pero esta arpillera es de México. Vamos a leer una historia de arpilleras de Chile. ¿Okay? ¿Conoces la historia de las arpilleristas? No, las arpilleristas son las mujeres chilenas que usan esa forma de arte para representar un periodo dramático en su vida, en la historia de Chile. Y vamos a leer sobre esta historia con Brian después. Okay. Si tú pudieras hacer una arpillera de tu vida personal, ¿qué historia contarías? ¿Contaría la historia de tu familia? ¿De tu niñez? ¿Contaría la historia de tu trabajo? ¿Contaría la historia de tus alumnos o amigos? Okay. Tela. Para hacer una arpillera, las mujeres usaban telas recicladas para crear su arte. ¿Dónde se encuentran telas recicladas? ¿Un vestido viejo? ¿Una tienda? Okay. Posiblemente un suéter, pantalones, etcétera, etcétera. I'm not going to go over all of the questions over here, but you get the idea. But I'm going to go over that. By the way, so, when teaching some of these phrases, these structures, you could use TBR type of gestures, right? Luchar might be a good one to do, okay? Pero I'd like to ask the personal question. So, ¿alguna vez tuviste que luchar por algo en tu vida? luchaste por la justicia, luchaste por amor, sí, posible, luchaste por los derechos humanos, ¿okay? Y en el futuro, ¿lucharías por la discriminación? ¿Lucharías por algo imposible, por la pobreza? Okay. ¿Un luchador es un rebelde? ¿Puede ser un rebelde? Okay. Y cuando ya no puedes luchar más, gritas. ¿Buscas ayuda de otras personas? Okay. Y la lucha libre, ¿ustedes conocen la lucha libre? ¿Sí? ¿La lucha libre es un deporte o una mentira? Okay. ¿Y tienes un luchador favorito? Si fueras un luchador, ¿cuál sería tu nombre? ¡El loco! Okay. ¿Usarías una máscara? By the way, normally if I were doing this with my students, I would stay in a different area so that I could see the questions and my students' faces at the same time. Okay, so apoyar is our last structure here. Apoyar is to support. ¿Y quién te apoya en la vida? Qué suerte tienes. ¿Y a quién apoyas tú?
A mi esposo, a tu familia.
A tu familia. Okay. So, again, this would be an opportunity where you can spend some time with your students to try to get to know them a little bit more so that they have an opportunity to interact with the structures before they read the story. Okay. Let me just check my notes to make sure that I got everything that I can say. I think that I have one more thing to say before I pass it off to Brian. So, you know, some people don't feel comfortable asking all these personal questions. Another way to introduce the story is by asking the story. And so, Nuestra Historia has scripts. In fact, the script that you can see in your packet right there is about a wrestler. So you could make up a silly story with your students using these same structures and which wrestler do you support or whatever. So you can follow that along. We're not going to demonstrate that because that's not my forte, but hopefully I gave you a little taste of how you can use the personalized question and answers that are written for every single story for you to be able to introduce the story to your students. And now Brian is going to share the rest of the story of the Argueras with you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Much like what Allison said about the personalized questions, the same goes for the story. Every unit of Nuestra Historia is based on stories. There are 3 short stories, there are alternative endings to a bunch of the stories, there are long stories that use all the structures that were presented. But with all those stories, it's very important that you vary the way that you deliver them. So that, as she was saying, we don't take those personalized questions and just throw them at our students and say, here, good luck, write down all the answers. Same thing goes with the stories. We don't just, it's not students spending every day online looking at a screen. We can take these stories and we can read them in class. We can allow them to read individually. We can allow them to read on the screen. We have native speakers that read the story for them. They can listen to that audio. So the idea with this curriculum is that it's incredible that it's all online and it's all there for us and it's digital and students can engage and interact with it. But we as a teacher also have that opportunity to bring it to life. And so what I'm going to do here, if you have this paper, if you want to look at page number 5, we need a few more here. Kelsey will get you some papers. And what the paper is here is a printout, we do one back there too, is a printout of an example part of one of the units. So everything you see on this paper is also available digitally. And again, you can present it that way or you can present it printed in this way. So we're going to look at one of these stories that comes from Unit 1 of Level 3. So again, as Allison said, these are students who have seen Sim language for a couple years. So keep that in mind. The same type of stories and materials exist for Level 1 and 2, so if you need to translate that in your head a little bit, you can think that way. But en la página 5, vamos a leer las arpilleras modernas. Everybody see that? Sí. And I'm not going to read it all. I'm going to kind of demonstrate a little bit, and then we'll talk a little bit to save time. But, well, let's start. Miranda está llorando cuando entra a su casa. Su abuela la abraza y le dice, ¿qué te pasa, mi amor? ¿Por qué lloras? Miranda le responde, me tratan mal en la escuela. Un chico me dijo que soy inmigrante, que me van a deportar a México. Otros se rieron, ja, 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 ja. No es justo. Y no es verdad, no soy mexicana, soy chilena y nací aquí en los Estados Unidos. And at this point we can talk about the discrimination that many Latino people face in our country, the way that they are all characterized maybe as Mexican, and maybe start to understand the trouble facing Miranda, this young girl. Carmen, la abuela de Miranda, nació en Chile, pero vino a los Estados Unidos en 1980. Era viuda y trajo a su hija Julia. Miranda, la primera hija de Julia y su esposo, nació en 2002 y ha vivido toda su vida en los Estados Unidos. Hoy la familia vive en Chicago y Carmen vive con ellos. Now what I would do right here if I'm teaching this story, this is very important information to what's going to happen later in the story, but it's a lot of information, right? So what I would probably do right now is I would draw a family tree. And I would draw Carmen, who's her grandmother, and then I would draw her children, and then I would draw basically so we can see who Carmen is and we can see who Julia is. Again, just kind of bringing the story to life. Let me read the next line. Carmen quiere apoyar a su nieta. Le dice, necesitas luchar. In English, what is apoyar? To support, as we just saw in our personalized questions. In English, what is luchar? To fight. And as Allison said, those structures appeared in the personalized questions as infinitives because that's how they first appear in the story. That's how the structures appear. So if it would have been apoyaba or apoyaste, that's how it would have appeared in the structure. So we don't always present everything as an infinitive, if that makes sense. Okay, so we can talk about apoyar, we can talk about luchar, which are new vocabulary terms. Let me go on a little bit. Luchar, le dice Miranda, no puedo luchar, ¿qué puedo hacer? Soy una chica joven, no tengo voz. Espérate aquí un momento, dice la abuela, y sale del comedor. Después de 10 minutos, Carmen vuelve con una maleta vieja. Abre la maleta y saca una tela con imágenes y palabras escritas. Es como una bandera antigua. En la tela, and what is tela en inglés? Fabric, as we just talked about. Hay un grupo de mujeres que lloran y está escrito, ¿dónde están? Y queremos justicia. And we can stop here and talk about why would they be saying that? What do you think? What can you predict? Why is that written on this arpillera? ¿Qué es eso? Pregunta Miranda. Una arpillera, dice Carmen. ¿Una qué? And here we can stop and we can talk about, look, here's a word, arpillera, that you probably didn't know when we started this lesson. But this girl who speaks Spanish in the home, she didn't know what it is either. So we can talk about sometimes there are concepts that go beyond language. They're cultural, and even native speakers may not know them. A little bit more. Esta era mi voz cuando no tenía una voz. Era mi lucha cuando creía que no podía luchar. Miranda está confundida. Carmen sonríe y se lo explica. We're going to jump here a little bit, and I'll just kind of summarize. So Carmen goes on to explain the arpilleras and the significance and how they were used during the dictatorship of Pinochet and Allende, and how these viudas, how these widows created them to gain support. And you may be familiar with that story. If you're not, you can see it here. And it also lends to further research, further investigation by students and teachers about this theme. And then let's go to the bottom of that page, bottom of page 6. Which says, the very last paragraph says, Miranda corre a su dormitorio y vuelve a la cocina con su computadora. Algunas telas de varios colores y algunas camisas y suéteres viejos. Va a crear sus propias arpilleras y va a usarlas para contar la historia de la discriminación contra los latinos en las escuelas de los Estados Unidos. So what we have is what Miranda is going to do here is she's going to take some materials and she's going to create her own arpillera. So she's going to connect this historical cultural event with something that is facing her currently. And that's what comes up a lot in a lot of these stories. That's a lot of the theme and the idea and the objective is to connect historical and current cultural events with the lives of students. And then our students, maybe who are from the United States, can connect their culture and life with students in other countries. I'm going to read the very last part here on page 7. Miranda Pasa una hora leyendo sobre la discriminación que sufren los estudiantes latinos, la disciplina más fuerte, la actitud negativa hacia su acento, las expectativas más bajas, una falta de recursos, la segregación, malos diagnósticos de discapacidades, una falta de comunicación con los padres. This list of difficulties that Latino students face is not just a random list. That comes from a research list of the most common issues facing Latino students. And that appears a lot in the stories as well. Details, accurate details about things that people are facing these days. Let me read the last paragraph just to finish the story. Durante una semana, Miranda trabaja en las arpilleras. La cocina se ha convertido en un taller de arte y cada día después de clases, Miranda vuelve a contar la historia de los latinos con la tela. Cuando tiene 5 arpilleras terminadas, las lleva a la escuela y las pone en varias partes. Muchas personas miran las arpilleras modernas y conversan sobre el mensaje. Pronto Miranda tiene muchas oportunidades para explicar sus motivos de lucha. Otros estudiantes latinos de otros países quieren apoyar. There is, and by the way, every structure that was a target structure is at least 3 times in the story, in every story, often more. Y quieren apoyar a Miranda y su causa. Empiezan a crear sus propias arpilleras, cada una con una perspectiva nueva, pero todos con los mismos objetivos: expresar el orgullo latino y luchar contra la discriminación. And then if you look here on the paper, you can see some activities that go along with the stories, which again are always available digitally for students to do on the computer, automatically sent to you as a teacher so you can grade or at least view them. You can also print them out. They're print here so you can see them. And you can see some of we have great activities. Some of them are comprehension, many of them are going beyond the text and engaging with the text and the theme and requiring the students really engage with the material that's there. Back to Kelsey.
Thank you, Brian. So, what you've seen are just a couple of the ways that teachers use our resource in their classroom. One of the things that I think is really beautiful about comprehensible input is there's no wrong way to do it. So as long as you're doing it and you're using the right resources and you're engaging the students, you're doing it right. So that's what we really love about VOCEs is that some teachers do use it as a strict curriculum. It's where they go through it start to finish. And a lot of teachers do use it as a supplement as well. So they use it and just use the stories or just use the personal questions. There's a lot in here that you can use in a lot of different ways. One of the great things that we do have in our Nuestra series are the Super Lapis videos, which were created by Senor Jordan. So we're going to bring him up for a minute.
Let me talk to you guys.
Hola. So I've been working on this for the level 1 curriculum, and I just wanted to announce that the 4th episode is available now on Unit 4. And I just want to, whoa! Hay un lápiz. Pero el lápiz no es normal. Es un lápiz diferente. Él se llama Super Lápiz. Hola, Super Lápiz.
Hola.
So yeah, you should check out Super Lápiz. It's pretty cool.
As a special gift for everybody who showed up today, I want to make sure that everybody gets a free full year of VOCEs. So make sure you see Aaron or Kelsey on your way out. They're going to give you 1 whole year absolutely free. Thank you for coming.
It's gonna be for one level, but you'll get to choose. So excited. Yeah, and he can work with you like for the weekend. Okay. We're really flexible. You need like a month on 4 level. What level do you do? Oh, okay.
Well, I'd like to try.
Okay. You know what? I got it. Yeah, we can. Yeah. Okay. Did you get?
Do you have them? Okay, well,
And then what I'll do is when we get back, I'll just pull up
no, I don't.
Super clever. Always speak in third person. But that's super clever.
Yeah, that's fine. I recognize this. I recognize this. And probably I mostly rely on phone. It's almost always